Hello people, this is Grumpy Dave's garage. I can barely see. I got to get my dog nose prints off my glasses. I had to get Brit covered back up. We got rain for the next 4 days. Who cares? Saturday it's not supposed to rain. That's perfect. That's my delivery day. My big compressor comes over. My big toolbox leaves. The LS shows up. Transmission shows up. I got to get the harness off the LS to hang it up, make sure it's all dried out and waterproof and ready to go, and get all the pieces together because I got to take it and the ECM out to my engine supplier and pay him $100. And I'm buying a newer ECM for a cable setup. And he's tweaked the different program in there. He thinks it's more responsible for a car of this weight to get the most out of the engine without blowing the rear ends and the tires off of it. So I'm going to see what he's got in that program. Give it a try. Got to change it anyway because I'm going from drive-by-wire to drive-by cable. Because as you told you, the drive-by cable does not fit in the MG footwell or plan. And then I want to get an engine stand in here. I got to buy one. I like the ones that's got, it's not the T, but it's like an H. It's got 4 casters to the 3. I'm going to check the balance of it. If I don't like it, I got some square tube, and I will go and box this thing out wider in the front to match the back so it's totally stable when I'm cranking around and working on it. Because I had one of these flip off one time and almost landed on top of me. And then I had one, my grandson was a little kid, he was climbing on stuff like kids do, grabbed a small block forward and was starting to pull himself up, and the thing flipped. And a buddy of mine saw it. He grabbed the engine and caught it. And I grabbed my grandson and pulled him out of the way and helped him put the engine back on the ground. I put that engine on the ground, and I cut that bitch up with a cutting torch and threw it in the scrap pile. I never replaced it. So what I got to do now is get the long bolts out. Doop-a-doop-a-doo-boo. And what I need is a H pattern, or the 4 roller, 2 in the front, 2 in the rear roller spread out pattern to support the engine, because I want to clean up the block on the sides to get it ready to accept the motor mounts. I got to take everything off the front of the motor and throw it on the bench to get it cleaned. I want to get the engine block painted and cleaned up. I'm not going downtown with a fancy paint job on it. I'm just cleaning it up. Okay. I'm going to drop it in, and then I got to dress it, and I got some changes to do and everything, so it'll all be in great shape. Okay. What you're hearing in the background is the hounds next door talking to my dog, so they're having a hound dog party. I just give up. Today, I just painted, after all that complaining. Look at that. Perfect. That is $5.49 paint from Lowe's, from the local lousy store. And it's drying and looking good. The $12.99 or $13.99 industrial grade red paint, it doesn't require primer, was junk. I'll use it for primer first coats, and I'll use this stuff for the second coat, because this looks good. It's not even drying yet. It's starting to dry. It's getting that tacky, patchy look as it's drying up, and it's looking sharp. So what I'm going to be doing is build a tire bead breaker. I got enough scrap metal here. Got a project to do. I got a mag drill. I got bits. I got nuts and bolts. I got washers, lock washers, 1x2 tubing. And I'm just going to be a platform to throw the tire down on with an arm that stands up, an arm that comes out, and one that hangs down. You put it on the bead, stick my extended tire tool in the end of the square tube, press down and break the beads, and then I can use 2 tire tools I got here to pop the rotten tires off the rim. I want to clean it up. I want to get 4 good tires on the MG on the Datsun wheels, for the 240 Datsun wheels. for my rollers, my body shop, and the 4 rotten tires I don't even need here. I need to get them disposed of, get the valve stems out. I need to get a trash can and a couple of gallons of good old vinegar and dump in there after I degrease them and clean them up and let it take all the grit and the grime and the rust and the crud off of them. And then I'll take them out here, and I got a sand and water blasting attachment for my power washer. And I'll take them out in the driveway, and I'll blast the tar out of them and get all the old paint and everything off, get it down to metal. Some of them are scratched up where they used to beat them beauty rings on and stuff. I'll get all that polished off, get them in some etching primer, and get them on the bench over here out of the way. So when I get closer to needing them, they're not that far from being done. Only thing I got to do is primer them, shoot them, let them dry, put the valve stems in them, and get the tires put on them. In the meantime, it'll clean something else up, because my wife doesn't want anything sitting outside in the driveway. Heaven forbid the city might drive by and complain. Good for them. I got the rack power wash today. I got to do some measurements off of it. We're kicking around the idea of some power steering, a change of the belt and pulley arrangement on the LS, a different hood setup. So I got to take all the measurements off my hood on a piece of paper, and I'm going to meet a guy who does some videos for junkyards, just to get a little guided tour for the one that's got the stuff I'm interested in, to see if I can't get the top trim pieces that go along the doors. There's the MGB GT in one of the yards that's got no engine. Someone started work on it and gave up, and it's been sold for scrap, and it's sitting there. It might be gone already. Every time I get interested in one, it's just poof. And then I want to look at a 2+2 anniversary edition Mustang hood from a Mustang 2. The cowl induction hood off a Z28 or a Chevelle SS. I want to look for another hood total. Take a magnet along, because I don't want to pick up an aluminum one. I need a steel one like I've got, so I can cut and weld and do my stuff, because I want to make it look like it was designed that way. I got the front roll pan there that someone decided to beat it up when they put ropes on the front end and drag the car out of the barn, that they were tearing something up. Instead of going by putting the ropes and stuff on the tow hooks, they just tied them up there, real short, tied them on the back of a pickup truck that was jacked up. It took off and just screwed up the pan. I can hammer it out and work on it. It'll take a while. And I'm trying to work ahead. I'm looking at some metal wheel flares. I got to salvage the left rear quarter and the right rear quarter, some pieces off my parts car, because in July that car's getting cannibalized to pieces. And what's left goes to the guy who just picked up all my scrap metal. He's already got the engine out of as part of a deal to work on this one for me. And I may throw in the transmission if he wants it. It's just a flat 4-speed. I'm hanging onto the drive shaft because I need it, and I'm keeping the 4-speed electric overdrive, the drive shaft, and the shift knob, and a shift plate somewhere. I got to figure out what I did with it. Anyway, it might be on that shelf. Come think about it. Because when a project's farther along and it's slowing way down, and I got the time, I can crate that up. And if someone wants to pay for it and pay for the shipping, I'll send it on its way. I don't know how many parts I'm going to have left off this car. And here's my priority list. There's that priority list. I'm still dealing with the rear end setup, spring setup, the shock arrangement, the emergency brake setup, the fuel tank, the return line to the fuel tank, the new fuel lines, the brake lines, I know what I'm going to do for the brake booster, the master cylinder, and the proportioning valves, one I used to use in my old street rods. And it goes in. It's only $159. That, and I have to get the setup so I can get the eyelet so it'll match up to the box, because I got to dress the box out, and then I got to put in the brake light switch and the wires to it and hang them inside the car and do all. So when I drop it in with the pedal in it, everything is intact. I want to change the pedal to a wider pedal, okay? Wider pedal. Because what I'm going to do is to weld that one beside mine and bring it over a little bit so I can get like a 3-inch brake pedal instead of these little narrow things, because if I don't have a clutch pedal, I can extend the brake pedal over and make it easier to hit. It's just my thought. Okay. She's coming together quick. It's really hate to see this weather leaving. I'm going to be doing the tire thing. I may do some video on that. The thing I'm making them for that. So I can get the rims broke down and get my rollers ready. Because when the time comes, I'll set that little table up right there. Everything goes on the front end at one time and gets torqued down. Every nut, every bolt, every washer, every part. The spring has got my compressor I've designed and built on it. So when it's totally torqued in, everything's in place, and the trunnions, everything is Carter keyed and ready, I'll back off the nuts, take out the center bolt, and pull the plates out, and we're good to go. Now, I sprayed primer on the crossmember out pieces, followed by a coating of black paint. One. I rust proofed up and across 4 inches all the way around, but I didn't get into the clean out panel. I don't want it on there. This stuff will dry in a couple days, and then there's some gaps and stuff from some panels and stuff. And then I got the fuse product here. I'll put it in a caulking gun. I'll go out there and caulk it in and seal it in, or seam seal it, or whatever you want to call it, and get all that in. And when that gels over and dries up in 24 hours and everything is ready, it'll be ready to get rust proofed. I'm not shooting a rust coating on it until the fenders come off. The fenders have to come off for some work I'm going to be doing. And if I'm going to put metal fender well flares on it, I'm going to have to get the fenders out, turn them upside down, and get all that rust proofing and coating off of there. So when I'm cutting and welding, it's not burning and smoking and carrying on. So I can not only weld it on the outside, I can pop the fender back off and turn it over. I can go in and spot weld it on the inside, seam seal it and protect the seams, rust proof it on the inside when it's done, take it out there and line it up and bolt it back on the car, and it won't come off again. Right now, there's on the car, because I was doing some work, and I got to take them back off to finish another issues I'm dealing with. And I want it to be done right. Okay? Now I'm all set up to get some stuff done. I got 4 days of rain to come out here and find something to do. That is unbelievable. The eclipse is going on right now. I'm really impressed with it. I've seen a couple of them before as a kid. Or one, I'm not into it. So that is it. Because after this, I will be setting up to attack that front end and put that whole front end underneath the car nonstop. Everything new, everything torqued in, everything replaced. It'll be done. And then I'll have the transmission in here. We'll do the transmission and mock-up LS prep on the camera and get it dropped in positions for the welder to come over, and we start figuring out how we're going to do that. And when he gets done and we pull it back out of there, and he gets the final weld on it, and gets the cross member figured out and how he's going to build it, I'll pull everything out and I'll prep that engine compartment, clean it, paint it, get the heater box in it with the heater damper control cable already pre-attached in there. and get the brake box out and get it up on the bench and get ready to start assembling it. It can go in after the LS goes in. The LS will be here on the engine stand getting worked on rainy days. There's plenty of them to work on it. So you can just pick it up and drop it in the car, one and done. I'm probably going to end up buying a transmission jack. I never used one. I just rolled over on my arm, picked it up, and pressed it up in the car. I can't do that anymore. One, I'm too old. Two, I've got a shoulder replacement. Three, I don't feel like working that hard. So I can get a jack for $129. It goes up 24.5 inches. That's more than enough for even the height the car is sitting. Because once the engine is in, I can block and brace it, keep it protected, and then I can put the transmission on the jack, roll it out, and just crank it up until everything's in. And when I'm under it, I can remove the safety strap off the torque converter, throw it aside, move the transmission and bell housing together slowly so it stays locked. Put it on the dowel pins, put the bolts in it, zip 2 of them in to pull it together. Then I can put all the bolts in the bell housing, go up, put all the nuts and bolts on the 3 on the torque converter and get them torqued in. I'll be totally done and finished. And then after that, I'll have to get a drive shaft made. I got to decide on the rear end. There's a lot of stuff going on, which will be done off the camera. But I'll be taking you to the junkyard, let you look at some cars, throwing some stuff up that you might be interested in. I'm not going to be doing a will it start on anything right now. I should have done a will it start on this one. I didn't think about it. It probably would have started if I cut all the wires out and hot wired it, because they had a spaghetti ball in there to work with. So that's what we're doing. I got another guy who's got 5 of them in his property. He wants me to come and look at them. It's probably next month. There's a guy that's got 5 or 7 of them in his junkyard down south of here somewhere. I want to go down there, see what he's got. Then there's one I told you about. It's got the MGB GT in it, which looks really good. It's a chrome bumper car. I don't know anything about it. I don't know if it's titled. I got to talk to this guy. Everything is coming over and being done. The eclipse just ended. It's getting bright outside again. Oh, whoopee. I'm ready to go. So we'll be doing the prep to the cleanup and stuff. I'll kind of get things set, get you on board here. I'll lay everything out, clean up the table over there, and get the tools set. Because the minute the LS engine is mocked up and things welded in there and comes out, I'm slamming in the front end on tires and wheels, going into the engine compartment, dressing it out and getting it ready for the engine. And then we will go to the cockpit of the car and we'll gut the doors and everything, all the chrome, everything comes off the car. And then, and only then, will I get it painted and sealed inside, so I won't have to deal with the rust anymore. It's be the 5th time I had to clean it out of there. Because when I get started on it, I got to rock and roll with it. Tomorrow, since it's raining, I get to take my wife shopping. And I said, while we're at it, we need to pick up paper towels. I'm going through a ton of them. She said, we'll buy you a big bundle of them. I said, no problem. Buy me the cheap ones. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to absorb and clean up messes. So that's where we are, people. We'll be setting things up and showing you what's going on. We'll be setting up the stuff for the LS and getting it kind of prepped in. And then when the transmission and engine get here and my big compressor and stuff leaves, we will be in a position, hopefully, watching the rain. Jimmy's ready to go anytime I am. Wheel it out there, lift it up with the engine hoist, drop it in. I'll use the air jack and some cribbing material to block it up, and I'll get the transmission up where it needs to be, and we'll get the transmission engine suspended and centered and in place where we need it. And that's the way it is. Okay? All my neighbors are out going ooh ah at the eclipse, and my wife was with them. God love her. She's gonna do my interiors, so whatever she wants, I'll do. She's got some stuff done. My shop has to be heated. My shop has to have ventilation. I need better lighting. She's got a whole list of stuff that I got to do.